Have you ever looked at an old wooden pallet and seen more than just scrap? In this video, we'll show how forgotten wood can become something beautiful, something useful, something yours. Welcome to Archon Aesthetic Studio. Here, we believe in second chances, for materials and for ideas. Today's theme is recycling and upcycling pallets for garden decoration. There are timestamps included. Feel free to skip to the parts that inspire you most. And if you have questions or thoughts, leave a comment below. All visuals in this video are generated using AI tools and serve only as creative inspiration. Some details may not be perfect, so use them as a starting point. Adapt the ideas to what you have and make it your own. And just so you know, to you, I might be just another voice in a video, but behind this channel is a real person and a real family. This isn't just content. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe keeps this dream alive. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. One, DIY vertical pallet garden ideas for small outdoor spaces. There is something quietly magical about giving life to what once was discarded. A pallet, simple, rough, and often overlooked, can become a vertical sanctuary, a place where soil meets sky in harmony, even in the smallest corners of urban life. In the first image, we are met with a rooftop riot of color, cascading from rows of pallet planters standing tall like a blooming wall of joy. The aged wood cradles flowers of every hue, sun-kissed yellows, deep violets, and cheerful reds, spilling over as if unable to contain their happiness. This is not just a garden. It is a celebration of life above the city's hum. A gentle reminder that even amidst concrete, we can grow something vibrant. If you look closely, the imperfections in the wood, scratches, dark spots, uneven cuts, become part of its charm. They tell stories of trucks, warehouses, and journeys past. Now, they hold life, color, and fragrance. You don't need much, a few bags of soil, seeds, or blooms of your choosing, and time. Not even that much space. Just a wall, a rail, or a patch of sun. Now follow us into the second image, a quieter scene, more restrained, but no less meaningful. Here, a pallet mounted on a fence has become a humble, honest herb and succulent garden. Small tools dangle with purpose. Potted greens nestle in place. The sun carves long shadows that dance along the fence boards, warming the worn surface. It's the kind of setting where silence speaks volumes, where the joy comes not from size or spectacle, but from usefulness and intention. This kind of garden doesn't scream for attention. It invites it. It whispers, "You can do this too." A drill, a hook, a few metal planters, maybe even just what you already have. This is design that does not demand perfection. In fact, the more character, the better. Let the rust show, let the wood crack and splinter. That's what makes it feel alive. And finally, in the third image, a vertical herb garden leans confidently against a balcony wall. This one feels like a living recipe book, with rosemary, basil, thyme, and parsley labeled in chalk, like ingredients waiting for inspiration. The orderliness of the rows is softened by the fresh green texture of the herbs. The light plays across the leaves, casting a quiet joy on the wall behind it. It's functional, yes, but more than that, it's personal. You don't just build this to admire it. You interact with it every day. You touch the leaves. You smell the mint before it lands in your tea. You watch basil grow taller and know it's time for pesto. It becomes a part of your rhythm. If there's a lesson these three gardens teach us, it's that beauty doesn't have to be bought. It can be built. With reclaimed wood, a touch of creativity, and the willingness to get your hands dirty, anyone, yes, anyone, can craft something beautiful. So the next time you see an old pallet by the curb or behind a store, see it not as waste, but as potential. Imagine what it could hold, what it could support, what it could bring to life. That's the spirit of upcycling. It's not just reuse, it's re-enchantment. Two rustic pallet planter boxes and raised garden beds for backyard decor. Some gardens whisper. They don't demand applause or spectacle. They don't climb high or sprawl endlessly. Instead, they rest, low, grounded, intentional. And at the center of these modest spaces, something extraordinary happens. Life begins again through old wood, reborn as nourishment. In the first image, we see a U-shaped raised herb garden, crafted with patient hands and humble materials. Pallet wood, once used to carry forgotten cargo, now holds basil, mint, rosemary, and thyme, herbs that breathe fragrance into the summer air and flavor into evening meals. The boards are laid thick, strong, unpainted. Their raw edges and deep grains frame the soil like pages of an open book, where each sprouting leaf tells a chapter. Notice how practical beauty unfolds. Small wooden markers identify each plant, inviting beginners to learn their names, their scents, their uses. The layout, though simple, is wise. Easy to reach from all sides, this design encourages both utility and comfort. Perfect for elderly gardeners, children, or anyone who cherishes time spent with the earth. Then we're transported to the second image, a bright, joyful contrast. Here, a row of pastel-painted planter boxes lines the edge of a patio like cheerful guests waiting for a garden party. Lavender rises with elegance. Marigolds explode in sunshine yellow and warm orange. Each planter box, though made from reclaimed pallet wood, carries its own personality, enhanced by soft hues that reflect the warmth of their flowers. And yet, even behind this soft beauty lies intention. Painting the boxes in pastel not only gives charm, it helps protect the wood from moisture. It's a subtle blend of form and function, where upcycling doesn't mean compromising on aesthetics. These boxes are perfect for spaces with limited soil, offering anyone with a patio, balcony, or paved yard the chance to grow something real. And finally, we slow down with the third image. A classic square raised garden bed, built with sturdy pallet planks, sits peacefully in a green yard. Lettuce grows with steady rhythm in rich, dark soil. There is something deeply grounding about this image. No decoration, no flourish, just wood, dirt, and greens reaching toward the sun. For those who've never built before, this project is a gentle invitation. You don't need to be a carpenter. A few boards, a box of screws, and the willingness to measure, cut, and plant. This is all it takes. Recycled pallets are forgiving. They don't ask for perfection, and in return, they offer something deeply fulfilling. The quiet joy of growing your own food, the pride of creation, and the peace of knowing you've given new life to discarded wood. So whether you're building for flavor, for flowers, or for the feeling of dirt between your fingers, these raised beds remind us that gardening is never about how much you have. It's about what you do with what's in your hands, and what can grow from even the simplest of beginnings. Three, reclaimed pallet garden benches with simple and functional design. Some of the most cherished spaces in life are not extravagant. They are simply where we choose to pause. A moment of stillness in the garden. A quiet afternoon sun warming your back. The hum of bees, the rustle of leaves, the soft creak of wood beneath you. In the corner of a patio bathed in amberlight, we find the first scene. A rustic L-shaped bench built entirely from reclaimed pallets, cushioned with thick, inviting pillows. It isn't just seating, it's a refuge. A space made not just for sitting, but for unwinding, for laughing with friends, for sipping tea in silence. The wood, painted in soft white and weathered with time, speaks of character. You can see where the brushstrokes once passed, where time has chipped the corners gently. It feels lived in and loved. There are potted herbs and lanterns nearby, small details that say, someone has made this space theirs. And you could too. A few stacked pallets, a hand sander, some outdoor cushions, and suddenly, you've carved your own little sanctuary from the ordinary. Then the story shifts. A simple stool stands alone beside a bed of tulips, bold and red with golden tips, glowing under the sharp morning sun. The stool is honest in its construction. Rough edges, visible screws, unfinished wood. There's a kind of poetic contrast between the rawness of the pallet and the elegance of the blooms beside it. But this isn't about perfection. It's about purpose. This is a piece you build not to impress, but to support, to kneel on while planting, to place a watering can, or simply to sit close to the soil. It invites you to create without pressure, to build with your own two hands and find joy in the practical beauty of simplicity. And finally, we come to a quiet corner beneath the tree's outstretched branches. A two-seater pallet bench sits in dappled light, a pair of gloves resting gently on the seat. A watering can nearby leans slightly in the grass. The bench is smooth to the touch but proudly unfinished. You can still trace the history of the wood in every knot and line. This space does not shout, it listens. It waits. It reminds us that sometimes we build not to do more, but to rest more. A place to read a page, to take a breath, to enjoy the company of wind and birdsong. And perhaps, most importantly, it reminds us that luxury is not always store-bought. Sometimes, it's built from scraps, from effort, from something someone else might throw away. The beauty of these pallet benches is not just in their shape, but in their story, a story of transformation, resourcefulness, and the quiet power of making something with your own hands. So take the wood others leave behind. Give it new purpose. Build a bench. Make a moment. And sit with it. Four, hanging pallet flower pot shelves for patio and balcony decoration. sometimes, the most beautiful gardens do not grow from the ground. They hang, they float, they dance with the breeze. They are built not from abundance of land, but from the desire to bring life closer, closer to the window, the wall, the air. In the third image, we see a simple pallet shelf mounted on a small balcony wall, holding 6 terracotta pots bursting with daisies and purple petunias. It's nothing extravagant, just an untreated plank of wood, metal hooks, and a bit of vision. But look again. The morning light catches the rim of each pot. Shadows stretch softly along the wall. And suddenly, it becomes a painting. Not one you hang, but one that lives, that moves, that grows. This kind of project is for the quiet creator, for the person who enjoys planting with coffee still warm in their cup, for the city dweller whose garden is measured in inches, not acres. It doesn't take much. A few pots, a few plants, and a willingness to give beauty a place to live. Then the second scene shifts the tone. A pallet frame suspended under a pergola, strung up like a rustic chandelier, from which flowers dangle freely. The pots sway gently in the open air, trailing leaves like wind chimes made of green. There's a natural elegance here, the kind that can't be bought, only built. The kind that says, "This was made with care." It's a simple construction, but its impact is layered. It turns overhead space into bloom space. It casts dancing shadows across walls. And it welcomes pollinators, bees, butterflies, even curious birds. This is the kind of DIY that invites not only beauty, but interaction. And finally, the first image brings us to a charming fence-mounted pallet, holding potted lavender in sky blue and clean white planters. The contrast between the raw, rough wood and the painted pots is intentional and delightful. The blooms peek out gently, their scent carried by every breeze. Here, the dirt on the bottom shelf, the hooks that show age, the uneven nails, none of it takes away from the charm. In fact, it adds to it. Because what we see is not just a structure, but a rhythm. The rhythm of hands working, of soil pressed down, of small beauty made daily. These pallet shelves are not just for plants. They are for people who want to grow something where there once was nothing. They are for balconies that needed a bit of life, for patios that whispered for color, for fences tired of being just fences. And for you, if you're wondering whether you can do this, the answer is yes. You can. A pallet, some screws, a brush of color if you like. Start small. One pot, one bloom, and from there, let your vertical garden rise, not just in height, but in joy. Because beauty doesn't need to spread across a field. Sometimes, it just needs a wall and a bit of sunlight. Five outdoor pallet coffee tables for garden entertaining spaces. Not every table is just a surface. Some carry conversations, laughter, and memories under open skies. And sometimes, the simplest materials, like pallets once destined for the dumpster, become the most grounding part of a garden. We begin with a scene that feels like a slow Sunday afternoon. A rustic pallet table on wheels, stained just dark enough to highlight the grain. It sits in the center of a cozy patio, surrounded by soft garden furniture. On top, a teapot and 2 mugs rest beside a vase of pink gerbera daisies. Fresh, unassuming, and alive. You can almost hear the clink of porcelain and feel the hush of a gentle breeze. This table doesn't try to impress with polish or perfection. It invites you to sit down, stay a while, and share something. Maybe tea, maybe time. Built from just 2 or 3 pallet layers and mounted on wheels, it's functional and forgiving. Perfect for anyone new to DIY who wants their space to feel theirs. Now shift the light and step onto a sunlit wooden deck. A square pallet coffee table, painted white and scuffed with age, anchors a corner filled with terracotta pots. There's a book lying open, a bowl of apples and bananas nearby. The white paint chips at the edges, proof of seasons past and hands that have wiped it clean after morning juice or rainy evenings. There's something deeply calming about this setup. The slight tilt of the light, the warm color of fruit, the shadow of leaves across the planks. It's a table made for slow living, for weekends where the only agenda is to breathe. And if you want to make your own, the method is almost meditative. Sand, prime, paint, and stack. No 2 outcomes will be the same, and that's the beauty of it. And then, the final picture, a barewood pallet table set on soft green grass. It's a sunny midday picnic moment. Crisp bags of chips, mason jar lemonade, a daisy in a jar. The daisies growing nearby mirror the ones in the jar, tying nature and object in a quiet loop. Here, the table is raw and honest, untouched by paint or stain. It shows every mark of its past life. The surface is imperfect, and yet, it becomes the perfect backdrop for laughter, for stories, for summer snacks under the sky. There's no need to complicate it. This table can be made in under an hour. A stack of pallets, a hammer, a few screws, and suddenly, you have a centerpiece, not just for design, but for moments. Because at the end of the day, the best furniture isn't always found in showrooms. Sometimes, it's pulled from the side of the road, reshaped by hand, and placed where joy happens most. Among friends, outdoors, with sunlight and simplicity as the only requirements. Six, eco-friendly DIY pallet compost bins for urban gardening. Composting is a quiet revolution, an act of faith in the natural cycle of renewal. And when done with humble materials like discarded pallets, it becomes more than just a sustainable habit. It becomes a symbol of what's possible when we give the old a new purpose. In the first image, atop a rooftop surrounded by concrete and antennas, we witness something beautifully unexpected. A compact composting corner nestled among tomato plants and pots of herbs. Here, the buzz of city life is met with the rustle of leaves and the slow, steady transformation of waste into nourishment. The bin itself is simple. Reclaimed pallets, some rough, others neatly framed, form the structure. There's a hand-penned composting guide taped to the wall. You can feel the care in every line. This isn't just a bin. It's a classroom, a promise, a quiet rebellion against throwaway culture. Even in the heart of a city, nature finds a way, and you can help it, one peel and one leaf at a time. Then, the second image brings us into the shaded corner of a backyard. A larger double-chamber compost bin leans against a wooden shed, filled high with leaves and twigs. The lid is propped open, welcoming air and time to do their work. The build is imperfect. The wood is weathered. One edge droops ever so slightly. But this is real life, and real composting isn't tidy. It's honest. It's a layered story of dinners past and gardens future. This design, double-chambered, is ideal for those with more space, offering one side for fresh input and the other for curing compost. It's a setup for the patient, for those who find joy in slow transformation. And you don't need new materials, just old pallets, a drill, and time. Finally, we end in a shaded fence corner, where a single open bin rests quietly on bare soil. This one is raw and unfiltered. Its contents are visible: greens, browns, and the beginning of decay. Yet, nothing about it feels unpleasant. In fact, there's comfort here, because you know that what rests within will one day feed the soil again. This design is perfect for those just starting out. The slatted sides allow airflow. The open top welcomes rain. The build is quick, accessible to any first-time DIY. And as you fill it week by week, something changes, not just in the bin, but in how you see your kitchen scraps, your yard waste, your role in the ecosystem. Each image, each build, tells us that composting is more than a chore. It's an invitation to participate in nature's rhythm, to see waste not as the end of something, but the beginning of something else. And pallet wood, already marked by a life of carrying, storing, moving, becomes the perfect vessel for carrying that lesson home. So build your bin. Start small. Let it lean. Let it rot. And trust that from that decay, something beautiful will grow. Seven, rustic pallet garden fencing and dividers for aesthetic landscaping. There's something soothing about a fence made not of steel or plastic, but of stories. Weathered wood, aged by sun and softened by rain, turned gently into quiet guardians of a garden's soul. The first image speaks of a backyard that breathes. Reclaimed pallets, roughly stacked yet solid, enclose a composting area where life ends only to begin again. Vines curl upward like nature's gratitude, tracing the ridges of the old boards, transforming what was once a cargo hauler into a haven for regeneration. This setup may look simple, but it is incredibly wise. Each opening between the slats lets the breeze pass, drying the compost just enough. It's rugged, imperfect, and yet it belongs. If you've ever thought of composting but felt overwhelmed, let this be your inspiration. You don't need precision, just purpose. And a pallet or two. Step into the second scene and color takes the stage. A soft green divider stands like a cheerful neighbor between blooming beds and patio piece. Terracotta pots dangle along the top like earrings, each one home to a burst of pinks and whites, a small chorus of florals dancing gently in the sun. The chipped paint doesn't hide its age, it celebrates it. Here's a tip you can borrow. Use leftover paint from other projects to coat your pallet divider. It gives it charm, protects it from the elements, and infuses your garden with a personal hue. Hang planters with simple S-hooks, and you've instantly added dimension and joy. And then, as if pulled from a dream bathed in late golden light, the final image unfolds, a circular pallet fence enclosing a secret bloom. The sun casts long shadows through each wooden gap, painting stripes across dew-kissed grass. This fence isn't tall, and it doesn't try to be perfect. It frames a patch of flowers like a photo in a vintage frame. Some boards bear faded stamps, marks from a former life that now whisper of transformation. It reminds us that beauty doesn't need polish. Sometimes, it just needs to be placed with intention. These fencing and dividing ideas aren't just functional. They are soulful. They carry a sense of grounded rhythm, a reminder that gardening isn't just about growing plants. It's about creating spaces where breath slows, where waste becomes wealth, and where the old is invited to bloom again. If you've got a few pallets leaning in the corner of your yard or behind a shed, perhaps this is the nudge to give them purpose. You don't need to be a carpenter. Just be someone who believes that the garden deserves a frame made with care. Eight, creative pallet garden wall art and quote signs you can build yourself. In a quiet corner of the garden, where roses bloom and morning light dances between leaves, a message hangs gently on a wooden slat. Grow your own way. Made from simple pallet boards once destined for decay, this sign speaks softly to those who pass by, an invitation to bloom, not in perfection, but in your own rhythm. A curling vine wraps lovingly around the edges, as if nature itself is nodding in agreement. The cracks in the wood, the uneven strokes of paint, the whisper of age, all add character. You don't need a workshop to make this. Just heart, a brush, and a belief that words matter. Further along, nestled in a greenhouse among the scent of basil and tomato vines, a vertical totem of color rises. Planks painted in greens, purples, yellows, each bearing the names of herbs and vegetables. Lavender, basil, tomato. The letters are imperfect, clearly handwritten. That's the charm. The board leans casually, not mounted, just living among the life it describes. This is not only art, it's function. Label your garden, teach children, brighten your planting space. Let your garden speak with colors that reflect your spirit. And then there's the heart. Carved not just in shape, but in intention. This wooden heart, cut from old pallet boards and lovingly painted with flowers, butterflies, and garden creatures, hangs from a trellis laced with blooming roses. The sunlight falls directly on it, highlighting the faded strokes and uneven lines. It doesn't strive to be flawless, it strives to be real. This is where DIY becomes poetry. These simple signs are more than decoration. They're reflections of care, stories painted in pigment and wood grain. They ask nothing fancy of you, just that you look at discarded wood not as waste, but as canvas, as storytelling waiting to happen. Tip to take away. Even the smallest pallet scrap can carry meaning. Whether you choose to hand-letter a quote, paint a plant name, or craft a whimsical shape, don't wait for perfection. Weathered wood is already beautiful. Your touch just brings it to life. Nine, space-saving pallet garden tool organizer for sheds and garages. In a quiet corner beneath the shade of a garden awning, simplicity meets purpose. Here stands a humble creation, born from the rough bones of pallet wood, reshaped by hands that value patience and practicality. The potting bench, seen in the first image, isn't just a shelf, it's a workstation of quiet beginnings. A basil plant, proud and lush, crowns its surface like a green flame of life. Empty pots are stacked like promises, and scattered soil hints at stories just starting to root. There's no polish here, only honesty, raw wood, visible nails, dust from yesterday's efforts. And that's its charm. It invites us not to perfection, but participation. A little farther down the fence, the second pallet leans gently, almost playfully, holding gloves patterned like garden meadows, clippers that have known seasons, and trowels still damp with soil. Small chalkboard labels, handwritten and slightly smudged, remind us of what each tool is meant for, though the gardener likely remembers by heart. It's more than storage. It's an invitation to step back into rhythm with nature. Everything in its place, yet ready to be pulled into action at a moment's notice. Functional, yes, but also endearing. And then, on the wall of the shed where the sun slices through late afternoon, we see structure and order in their most rustic form. Larger tools, rakes, shovels, and forks hang like quiet sentinels. There's something deeply satisfying about their symmetry, the way the pallet slats cradle them like a frame around cherished instruments of cultivation. Mud still clings to metal edges, casting long shadows across the wood. It's not a showroom, it's a story of labor, of tending, of trust between a gardener and the earth. This is what upcycling truly means, not just reuse, but rebirth. So if you find an old pallet leaning against your garage wall or forgotten behind a store, see not what it is, but what it might become. A home for tools, a corner of calm, a partner in planting. With just a few screws, hooks, and your own intuitive layout, you too can create a garden companion that doesn't cost the earth, but helps you care for it. Because the best gardens aren't always grown in soil. Sometimes, they're built with love, from scraps of wood and a weekend's worth of inspiration. Build a mini greenhouse from recycled pallets for small gardens. In a quiet patch of green, surrounded by the rhythm of birdsong and rustling leaves, stands a humble yet remarkable structure, crafted not from new materials, but from forgotten pieces of wood given a second life. A pallet greenhouse is more than just a shelter for seedlings. It is a declaration of patience, renewal, and the power of human hands. In the first image, we see this dream realized in the middle of a modest backyard. The structure breathes practicality. Clear poly sheeting stretched across the roof captures the morning sun, warming trays of tomato seedlings nestled within. The timber, worn and split in places, holds steady, proof that beauty often lives in the imperfect. Step closer to the second image, and the story becomes even more intimate. Tucked against a sunlit wall, the greenhouse glows golden with the light of late afternoon. Herbs, basil, mint, oregano, thrive within its clear walls. Though its construction is simple, every angled beam and carefully fitted pane whispers of care and effort. You can almost hear the quiet clink of reused screws, the rustle of soil, and the joyful breath of a gardener watching tiny leaves reach toward the sky. In the final photo, the greenhouse rests atop a gravel bed, its uneven lines and mismatched planks unapologetically proud. Boots and a watering can sit close by, not for show, but because this is a space used, loved, and alive. Here, the earth meets the sky in an honest conversation about growth, patience, and sustainability. There's no polish, no perfection, only presence. And that's the real secret. You don't need expensive kits or flawless materials to grow something meaningful. You only need time, a few pallets, and a belief that small acts, like planting a seed, can bring lasting joy. DIY tip: when building your own pallet greenhouse, Look for heat-treated pallets marked HT, not chemically treated, for safety. Combine them with reclaimed clear plastic, like old windows or poly sheeting, and screw them together securely. Elevate the base slightly if possible, for drainage. It's okay if it leans a little. So does everything that grows. Let this inspire you not only to build, but to begin. To start growing, not just plants, but purpose. One slat, one seedling, one sunny day at a time. If this video meant something to you, please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.